G'day guys, today we're going to give you a bit of a rundown on fitting the B&B bash plate to the new Africa 1100 DCT. We've got the bike courtesy of Mount Buller Motorcycle Adventures. Big shout out to Jason, thanks very much for that. We're just going to give you a bit of a rundown on what you've got to remove to start. We've already removed the genuine decorative stone guard, and on the other side here it's pretty much as the bike would come. We're going to remove this bracket here. We'll take the front bolts out of the header pipes, loosen off the rear muffler bolt up here and completely drop this one out, and that should just give you enough to remove the pipes and lower them a little bit just to get the front mount bolt through. And this one has to come off too. To make it easier, you might have to remove this plastic cover here because this one's a little bit awkward to get to. And let's get into it. Alright, once you've got the front bolts out and this centre bolt out and you've loosened this one, especially if you're doing this job by yourself, because there's nothing really holding the pipe, you would want to put a cable tie up through here just to take the weight of the muffler, but just so it can still move around so the pipe doesn't drop on the ground. So you want to just leave it loose enough so that the pipe can move and you can pull it out of the head, but not overly tight so you can't manipulate it. Okay, we're ready to pop the pipes out of the front. And see how it's just, I've got the pipes out and I've dropped them enough just so you've got access to that mount hole through there. That's all you need to do. So the front mount you'll put on with that hole that we've just gained access to by dropping the pipes. That's the front bracket. Pretty straightforward. All you got to do is remember that the wider spacer is on the right hand side of the bike as you're sitting on it. So we'll just take this out and go and put her on the bike. Alrighty, so if you put the bracket up there like that and slip that bolt through, then you should be able to put the spacer on the end of the bolt, like that. Then ease it into position, push the bolt through, and then we go around the other side and put the spacer on and push the bolt all the way through. Okay, we've got that one through. It's a bit tight in there with that wiring loom. Just get that bad boy started. Just like that. And then you push this up until it contacts the frame, and then tighten the main bolt up. And that's it. Okay, now where we removed the bracket before, we just sit this one up here, and we're using the genuine bolts that came out of the Honda bracket. And just leave it hang there like that. At this time, you've got a couple of hose clamps here, and depending on where they are rotated to, we noticed one or two of them were actually down here and were interfering with the install of the bash plate. So now's probably a good time to loosen these off and rotate the screw heads up a little bit and out of the way so it doesn't hinder your install. I'll just make sure these are tight because we already did that. Okay, now your little channel bracket you got here, it's designed to slip over the frame like that, and then we just put that up there and we'll put the cap screws in and just hold it up there like that. But we don't have to tighten that yet because you've got access to these through the bash plate, so we'll just put a couple of bolts in there. Like I said, you can just sit them there because that'll allow it to line up with where it has to. But you can go along and tighten these ones up now. And that's it for that. Okay, one of the unique features of this bash plate is because the catalytic converter takes up so much space at the front of the bike, it's very hard to get any triangulation in to make this side of the bash plate really stiff. So what we've done is we've incorporated a high density plastic puck that will bolt to the end of the case here, because this case is really quite solid. It's only if a sharp impact from a sharp edge of a rock or something, but as a structure, if you can spread the load, it's really quite solid. So what we've got here, this one's actually a 3D printed carbon fibre one, but the manufactured one will be a high density polyethylene. So we'll put that on and then we'll show you what happens after that. So these have got copper washers on these genuine bolts to seal against the oil, obviously. They can go back in there like that. And then you just simply put that there. Now this is designed so that it spreads the load over that surface. Whoop. That surface there to take the brunt of any impacts, and it spreads the load over the whole case. So you need to put them copper washers in there so the spacings are correct. So you just lightly seat them all and go around and nip them up in a bit of a staggered fashion, so it pulls up nice and square. Okay, so that protects the end of the case. Now that's also incorporated with part of the bash plate. We've got this rubber puck here that'll actually rest against that. So you've got the plastic cup spreading the load, and then that rubber absorption pad for a bit of impact when the bike goes over on its side. Okay, so here's the bash plate for the Africa all ready to be installed. It's all made out of 5083 aluminium plate. We've had to incorporate a few different design techniques in this one. Again, as I said, because of the catalytic converter, it keeps you a bit tight for room. This one's actually a multi-piece wing. As you can see, there's that one piece there, then that another piece in there, which actually forms like a double skin with a pocket in between to keep that wing really stiff. As we said, that's got that rubber insert that'll rest against the case. This side here is a pretty solid design, but because of the weight of the bike, we thought we'll double reinforce it with a secondary skin in there to triangulate it. This side is super strong. All right, so we'll go ahead and whack her on now. It doesn't really matter which way you do this. Just get a couple of bolts started. I tend to start with the front one. Just get it started so it takes a bit of the weight for you. Again, just get it started. Now you've got to be careful with these because they're actually on a floating clip, so you might have to just align the floating clip to get the bolt started. Now we do have quite a few mounting points on this, but that's just because the thing is so big and it needs a lot of support for a bike of this weight. Does help having the hoist, but that's a pretty new thing for us. We've gone for the last 30 years without one. Okay, they are lined up pretty good. These are the ones that tighten up the bracket that I was saying. So if you've got a bit of a misalignment problem, you can actually move that bracket until you tighten those 3 holes. So pretty much all you got to do now is go around and tighten them up in a random order and make sure everything's going in nice and neat. And that's pretty much, you're ready to ride. Thanks for listening.